And my director, Bramwell, points it out to me. It's good afternoon. Welcome to the program. The Ministry of Health has sent out an alert to all health workers stationed at the country's points of entry, such as airports, to be on the lookout for travelers with symptoms of yellow fever. This follows a confirmed case of a 31-year-old Kenyan male who had traveled from Luanda in Angola, the epicenter of an ongoing yellow fever virus outbreak. The man arrived on the 12th of March 2016 through Jomo Kenyatta International Airport and was taken ill to a private health facility in Eastleigh here in Nairobi. He was later transferred to Kenyatta National Hospital, where he succumbed to multi-organ failure. Laboratory tests conducted at Kemri tested positive for yellow fever. Health officials will now be expected to investigate anyone with a history of travel to Angola with acute onset of fever followed by jaundice within 2 weeks of onset of the first symptoms. And so what are the symptoms that would make one know they are suffering from yellow fever? Let me take you through some of the information relating to this disease and based on the World Health Organization. And yellow fever is a viral disease found in Africa and in America's the tropical regions, that is, affects humans, monkeys. No specific treatment for yellow fever has been found so far. Let's now take a look at more information on yellow fever, and it is transmitted via the bite of a type of mosquito called the Aedes mosquito, very rare, especially here in Kenya in this day and age. Now, the first symptoms of yellow fever appear between 3 to 6 days, and those are fever, muscle pain. There's also headache and shivers. There's also a loss of appetite. There's also nausea and vomiting. Those are the first symptoms that appear after 3 to 6 days. Now, after 3 to 4 days, most patients of yellow fever improve and the symptoms do disappear. But that is not always the case. Toxic phase of yellow fever, fever reappears and develops jaundice. Sometimes there is bleeding and the blood appearing in vomit. That is also another symptom in the toxic phase of yellow fever. And 50% of patients in this phase, that is the toxic phase, die within the 10 to 14 days. That is what seems to have happened to that patient that was traveling from Luanda in Angola. So that is the latest. The ministry telling health officials in Kenya at points of entry like airports to be on the lookout for such symptoms, saying that there is that first case of yellow fever. Now, for more than report by the election, let's now go to another story concerning the just ended by-elections in Kericho, and the Elog, an observation group, has issued a report, and a report that has they have said that what KANU, who lost through their candidate Paul Sang, have been saying that the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission did manipulate the electoral results in Kericho, was manipulated, saying that that is just political propaganda. They have dismissed KANU's contributions to that debate. Let's now joining KTN's Michelle Ngele, who has been following this story and was at that release, at the launch of that report by Elog. And Michelle, if you can hear me, what is coming out of this report? We are hearing that KANU, that Elog are saying that they have dismissed KANU's allegations against the IEBC. What else is standing out in this report?
Much, Ben. Now, of course, the recently concluded by-elections in Kericho and Malindi were a litmus test for the country in assessing the state of preparedness of the next election in 2017. And the Elections Observation Group, also known as Elog, today revealed its report and its findings on the recently concluded by-elections in both Kericho and Malindi. And what comes out from the report, according to Elog, is that the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission was well prepared for for the two by-elections, despite the few issues that the by-elections had to deal with, including delay of delivery of voter material. But these issues were compensated by increased time on the day of the elections. That is according to Elog. And this is a bit against what leaders have been saying, especially after those by-elections. We had a leader in the National Assembly, leader of majority in the National Assembly, Aiden Duale, say that the IEBC should be disbanded because of the sloppy way in which they conducted the by-elections, especially in Malindi. But now we have this election observer coming out and saying that IEBC indeed did quite a good job. Now, what came out mostly from these by-elections, Ben, of course, is the KANU party contesting the votes of the recently released Kericho senatorial by-election, saying that the IEBC had announced Aaron Cheriot of JAP as the winner with about 109,000 votes compared to Paul Sang, who had about 56,000 votes, Paul Sang of KANU. Now, KANU leaders came out to say that there were major discrepancies in the way that election was conducted, saying that Paul Sang of KANU actually garnered 126,000 votes and not 56,000 votes as had been announced by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. In fact, this past Sunday, KANU leaders revealed a dossier which had all the evidence, they say, of the discrepancies during that election. And among that evidence, they say, is a progression formula that was used by the ruling party in conjunction with the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission to rule in favor, at least the winner, to have the winner in favor of the ruling coalition. Now, what the elections observation group Elog is saying today is that is pure propaganda by the KANU party, insisting that when the claims of discrepancies and disputed results came out, they embarked on a bid to sort of ascertain the results, and what they came up with, that their results matched the results that were given by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, and there were no discrepancies whatsoever. So Elog now says that KANU is politicizing the results despite losing fairly and squarely to the Jubilee party.
Michelle, so Elog has dismissed those claims by KANU. There were other issues like reports of violence reported in Malindi. So is Elog saying there were no other issues whatsoever in the two by-elections?
It's interesting in this, Ben. Elog maintains that the IEBC was fairly prepared for this, for these by-elections, but then again they come out and give all these discrepancies, like the fact that in Kericho there was the use of opaque ballot boxes as opposed to transparent ballot boxes, which is what is required by the Constitution. They also pointed out issues like governors in both Kericho and Malindi, and from both factions in the political parties in those areas used state resources to influence voters. And we had several of these instances, especially in Malindi, where we had several Jubilee leaders arrested in conjunction with the same claims. We also had a story of a woman being assaulted by members of ODM, allegedly, for being paid to influence voters in the area. They also pointed out issues like cabinet secretaries campaigning for political parties, which is contrary to the Constitution. And an example of that was the recently appointed Cabinet Secretary Charles Keter in Kericho. But despite all this, and despite all those irregularities that the Elog itself brings out, it says that they have noted an improvement in the conducting of elections in the country, and that they say the IEBC should be commended for doing so. However, they say that the Kericho and Malindi by-elections should serve as a lesson in improving the electoral process in the run-up to the 2017 general elections. And so they say now that the evidence that KANU has, or at least the evidence that KANU claims to have, should be forwarded to court. But if you remember, KANU has said it will not contest the winning of Aaron Cheriot in court just yet. And this, Elog says, is unconstitutional and undemocratic, and that they should have forwarded the results to court immediately.
Michelle, before I let you go, IEBC has been under fire from several quarters, especially the various political parties, especially the opposition coalition called over the verification of our Kenya referendum signatures. They did not meet the target for the first round of mass voter registration. Does this clean bill of health that the Elog has given the electoral body, give them a fresh lease of life?
Not really, Ben, because during this very same press conference, Elog also noted that bodies like the IEBC and the judiciary, which really have lost the credibility in Kenyans' eyes, need to reassure Kenyans and win Kenyans' trust back. So the IEBC still has the mandate of making sure that it wins the trust of every Kenyan, with questions being raised, of course, over the credibility of the Commission in conducting the 2017 general elections. And of course, there has been a lot of discontentment with the IEBC, not just in these by-elections. Of course, like you mentioned, the Okoa Kenya bid by the opposition, IEBC says it's in the final stages of verifying the signatures of the Okoa referendum bid. And the court leaders have, however, hit out at the IEBC several times, accusing it of colluding with the ruling government in several elections, actually, even the Kericho and Malindi by-elections. And it now says that the IEBC has been compromised. We have had several calls for the dissolution or the disbandment of the IEBC so far. So I wouldn't say that what Elog said is a clean bill of health for the IEBC, but then again, we must give credit where it's due. And the election observer says IEBC did quite a good job in the two by-elections, so we definitely need to give credit where it is due. What remains now on the part of the Commission is winning back the trust of Kenyans.
Thank you, Michelle. KTN's Michelle. The Jubilee National Steering Committee has indefinitely postponed the planned merger of TNA and URP and all other political parties affiliated to the Jubilee coalition. The steering committee, led by Meru Senator Kiraitu Murungi and former Cabinet Minister Noah Wekesa, announced that the parties will not merge until there is a law in place to shield the coalition's elected members from losing their seats in the event that they decamp from their political parties. But as KTN's Moremi Mwangi now reports, there may be more than meets the eye, as the yet-to-be-launched Jubilee Party has faced stiff resistance from members of the coalition in Meru and parts of the South Rift regions.
It was an ambitious plan to paint the country red and yellow. Some 16 months to the August 2017 polls. But with barely 2 weeks to the March 31st deadline for the planned merger of all the Jubilee coalition affiliated parties, the soon-to-be-launched Jubilee Party wagon may have just hit its first roadblock.
To be risky for us to dissolve the parties, without making provision for continuity of the presidency and the governance. We don't want to throw the country into a legal or a political crisis.
The Jubilee National Steering Committee, co-chaired by Meru Senator Kiraitu Murungi and former Minister Noah Wekesa, now says that Parliament is yet to pass the Political Parties Amendment Bill, which seeks to shield elected leaders from losing their seats, a predicament which may now see all Jubilee elected leaders lose their seats if the merger went on by March 31st as planned.
We are also looking at our party constitution, and these things have to be in place before we think of a date. But more importantly, the date is a prerogative of His Excellency the President.
But beyond the legal impediments, the planned dissolution of the coalition's main parties, URP and TNA, has faced a stiff resistance from a section of Jubilee leaders.
2017, mimi nitaomba kura na chama ingine si chama ya Jubilee.
Wewe kama ni mwanaume kamili ama ni mama sawasawa, wewe lazima uamue kusimama na Wakenya wenzako.
The committee has, however, declined to give a future date by when the merger will happen, and the wrangles in the coalition may intensify in the coming days as the 2017 campaigns gain momentum. Moremi Mwangi, KTN News, Nairobi.
Former police spokesperson Eric Kiraithe has been appointed to the position of the National Government Spokesperson, an office which had earlier been abolished by the Jubilee administration. The changes in the communication structure have been made in a movement to coordinate information being channeled out to the public. Kiraithe has been serving as a general manager for security services at the Kenya Airport Authority, KAA. A statement by State House Deputy Chief of Staff Nzioka Waita says Kiraithe's office will function from the State Department of Interior and Coordination of National Government. According to Waita, the move will ensure, quote, timely, consistent and coherent communication to the public on all matters relating to the national government's agenda. Kiraithe has previously served the country as a National Police Service spokesperson. To some good news now. On Britain's Tullow Oil has announced it made an oil discovery in Kerio Valley Basin, which could mean opening up a second oil basin for development in the country. Making the announcement this morning, Energy Secretary Charles Kater said the discovery is a big boost to Kenya in the line of becoming an oil-rich country. Kenya and neighboring Uganda have both made oil finds that are yet to start commercial production of the same, part of a string of energy discoveries along the east coast of Africa.
The Kerio Valley, and they are finished drilling, and in that basin, and what I can only say is they have encountered good oil shows. I think that is the brief which I can give on that. That the basin is good. They have encountered good oil shows.
Well, good news there for Kenyans as those companies, which are yet to start the commercial production of the oil deposits, but good news all the same. Let's now switch our attention to Parliament, where KTN's Chris Thairo has been following up what was happening. And in the National Assembly, the members of Parliament did adjourn the debate for today to discuss the security situation in Migingo Island, whereby several Kenyans have been arrested by Ugandan soldiers, including 2 Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission IEBC staff that were arrested a week ago but were released later on. Let's now go to Chris Thairo, who is standing by from Parliament. Chris, if you can hear me, what is happening? Chris, I don't know if you can hear me. What is the latest from Parliament? What can you tell us? We shall try to reach out to Chris Thairo later on during this news bulletin. Now, in matters business, Chase Bank's Director for External and Regulatory Affairs, Paman Ole Narikai, has told the Kenya National Assembly that the bank did due diligence and even reported suspicious transactions between Quarandam Limited and the Youth Enterprise Development Fund to investigating agencies for action. KTN's Patrick Amimu has been on this story for us now and has more.
The management of Chase Bank had a date with the National Assembly's Public Investments Committee to shed light on the ongoing probe on embezzlement of funds at the Youth Fund. The bank's External and Regulatory Affairs Director, Parmain Ole Narikai, says the Youth Fund injected 400 million shillings in their fixed deposit account at the bank in August 2014. In early February 2015, the bank received communication from the fund's suspended Chief Executive Officer to pay Quarandam Limited 115 million shillings, but declined since she was not one of the signatories to the account. Soon after, on 20th February 2015, the fund's chairperson, Bruce Odhiambo, wrote a letter to the bank informing it of change of signatories to the fund account.
It doesn't just talk about one individual, it talks about the categories. Category A, Category B. Under Category A, there is the CEO, Catherine Namue, and Judy Kimeto, the lending and investment manager. Under Category B, there is a finance manager, senior accountant, and accountant. They say the signing instructions are the CEO can sign off any instructions.
Narikai says Chase Bank asked for supporting documentation for the Youth Fund to show if the fund had contractual agreement with Quarandam Limited. He says the fund's boss, Catherine Namue, confirmed through electronic mail that the fund had a contract with Quarandam. The bank transferred 180 million shillings to Quarandam Limited in 2 tranches, but suspected a rip-off.
Why we are very suspicious about this account is that in the entire history of this account when it was opened, it only had a total of 3,000 shillings when it was opened in September 2014. We did what we could under our circumstances to prevent the misappropriation of funds and loss of public funds by ensuring that we raised all the red flags, including questioning, for example, the nature of the instructions emanating from the Youth Enterprise Development Fund in the first place. 2, the type of relationship existing between the Youth Fund and Corandam, we questioned that. 3, the nature of transactions that resulted or required the transfer of such huge funds, and most importantly, the bank even delayed effecting those transfers.
It looks like nothing happened from all even the agencies that were conducting investigations. They did not even seek to stop further movement.
When he appeared before the committee last week, Corandam's managing director Mukuri Angamao said his firm wired 117 million shillings, which was part of the proceeds to the lead consultant in the United States of America. Gamao's wife Doreen Waithera Nganga might have lied to investigators when she denied knowledge that their firm had been fraudulently paid 180 million shillings from the Youth Fund kitty. The committee will on Thursday question Catherine Namuye, the suspended chief executive officer of the Youth Fund, regarding the loss of millions of shillings under her watch. Patrick Amimo, KTN News.
The High Court yesterday barred the Kenyan Interior Cabinet Secretary from arresting Mombasa Governor Ali Hassan Joho or withdrawing his guns until his appeal is heard and determined, that is next month. The court decision came as Kenyans waited with bated breath to see if the CS Nkaisere would carry out his threat to arrest Joho by 2 p.m. yesterday. KTN's Duncan Hamba has that story.
Reports that Interior Cabinet Secretary Joseph Nkaisere was hunting down Mombasa Governor Ali Hassan Joho over the failure to return his firearm sparked anxiety in the port city, with various quarters giving different interpretations of the law regarding the matter.
Kuna tension mji huu, unnecessary tension. Kwa nini roho zetu ziko juu? Tunataka inchi iwe na cohesion. Si wakati hivi sasa ya kulaumiana, wakati wa kuonyesha kuwa mimi nina nguvu kupigana kifua, mimi ni serikali, mimi ni nani, haifai.
Kuna kitu sielewi. Sakata ya bunduki ni watu 4. Lakini imesisitiza sana Joho.
Members of County Assembly for Mombasa have come out to petition for full disclosure of what was behind the governor's troubles.
Ni kura za Malindi ambao William Baraka Mtengo wa chama cha ODM ameshinda, ndio story iliyoko hapa. Kwa hivyo wasibabaishe wananchi wa Kenya akili.
Ikiwa huyu ni deputy party leader, amekwenda amesaidia chama chake. Yule ni deputy president, amekwenda amesaidia chama chake. Lakini mbona anayefuatwa ni Governor Joho peke yake?
Some residents have attributed the winding plot to politics, accusing Jubilee of scheming the downfall of Joho.
Joho hapa aliambia rais peupe. Akasema comes 2017 mheshimiwa utakuwa opposition. So ni kama serikali iambie watu wakaaji wa Mombasa na entire Kenya mzima wana shida gani na mheshimiwa Joho.
So wale ambao wanamuadvise ningeomba wamuelezee kwamba governor anastahili kuwa kielelezo na akitaka tumuheshimu lazima aheshimu sheria.
Many residents are however cautious that if the matter remains unresolved, will spill over and spark animosity within the county and the entire coast region. They particularly feel Governor Joho needs to find a real truce with County Regional Coordinator Nelson Marwa.
Kama ni mambo ya kibinafsi, then tungeomba hao wawili wakae chini, watotoe mzozo ya bila kutumia ofisi zao ya kwamba mimi ni county commissioner, mimi ni governor.
Viongozi wa Kenya wamesahau mali tulitoka. Ukikumbuka chochote ambacho kilifanyika 2017.
It is undoubtedly that the race for political supremacy has just gotten the ignition ahead of 2017. Some observers keep reading politics in the wars facing Governor Ali Hassan Joho. However, there is a general feeling here in Mombasa that this matter is solved amicably within reason and sobriety. Francis Ontomwa, KTN News, Mombasa.
Marathon earlier this month, Mrs. Margaret Kenyatta has once again hit the ground running. The First Lady is now in the United States of America on a 6-day tour where she will receive medical supplies worth millions of Kenya shillings for the Beyond Zero campaign. Najma Ismail with the details.
Monday evening, the First Lady arrives in Phoenix, Arizona. Margaret Kenyatta has taken her Beyond Zero campaign to America and will be coming back home after 6 days with goodies of consignments of medical supplies to be dispatched to several needy hospitals in the counties under the auspices of Beyond Zero initiative. The initial consignment of the medical supplies will be going to Chemolingot Hospital in East Pokot, Baringo County. The medical supplies are worth 50 million shillings. The other consignments are expected in the country in the coming weeks.
You have made an individual commitment to make a difference and work towards a noble cause of making healthcare available to vulnerable societies the world over. I too am doing what I can to make a difference and transform the health landscape of my country, Kenya.
The medical supplies are donated by Project Cure, Commission on Urgent Relief and Equipment, which is an international relief organization that identifies, collects, sorts and distributes medical supplies and services according to the vital need of each country across the world. The inventory for the Kenyan consignment has been approved by a technical team from the Ministry of Health, who also undertook a needs assessment. Officials who accompanied the First Lady to Arizona include Ambassador to the U.S. Robinson Jeru Githai and PS for Health Dr. Nicholas Muraguri. Najma Ismail, KTN News.
Back into the country, pandemonium and acrimony characterized the session of Nyamira County Assembly after members disagreed following the postponement of a debate on a corruption report, which was scheduled for debate this morning. The report on implementation of various county projects, which was backdated to the year 2013, was tabled 2 weeks ago, but Deputy Speaker Andrew Magangi, who was in the chair, postponed the debate.
Even the speaker himself does not have a copy of what you are reading. Let us have copies first.
Trouble started after Deputy Speaker Andrew Magangi postponed debate on the much anticipated report.
I know that this document has come to the House severally, and it has been captured in the order paper severally, but simply because the Speaker also wants a bit of time to go through the document.
Agitated members of the Assembly raised issues over the manner in which the Deputy Speaker handled the matter, with a section of the House accusing him of intentionally dropping the motion because of the presence of the media.
I think you can understand, you are honorable members who wanted to chase you out. Yes. Understand that there is something fishy going around.
And if this document is to be tabled, let all the pages be there. We need to know, we understand some people were negotiating and some pages were plucked off from this document. Where are those pages?
Earlier before the sitting, journalists were barred from covering the event, and at one point they were ordered out by security personnel.
We want to understand the time limit was given to this paper to be taken through. It was 14 days. It has been delayed. This is almost 3 months, 4 months. What did the chairman of BSC did for the report to be brought in time? It has been a rhapsody.
Public Investments and Accounts Committee Chairman Ezra Mochiemo took to the floor and challenged the Speaker to offer a convincing explanation as to why he could not allow the report to be debated.
I've been under pressure to postpone this report because of the presence of the media. That the members of this Assembly don't want this report to be debated in the presence of the public. Order. Is Spanish, you cease.
It was Mochiemo who inflated the tempers by alleging that some MCAs had been corrupted to sabotage debate on the report.
Kisumu, yes. Why was some pages sold in Kisumu when the governor was called there? We shall be told the truth. This is no report. It is a mutilated report, and we shall stand to defend the report that we wrote as members.
A group of MCAs hurled insults at each other on the corridors.
And the mother of this report?
Yes.
No. So that one was thrown through back door by the same marginations.
Your committee failed.
It is yours which failed. That's why this one is failing. That's why it's failing.
The House was hurriedly adjourned. Bogichora Ward representative Bilto Manga faulted his colleagues for causing unnecessary tension.
If indeed some colleagues
prevailed upon the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee to drop it. That puts our integrity into question altogether.
The report is said to have implicated 6 members of the county executive in corruption. Fred Muturi, KTN News, Kisii.
Less than orderly in the Nyamira County Assembly. Let's now take a look at what's happening in the National Assembly, where this morning members of Parliament, led by again Member of Parliament Joho, adjourned debate to discuss the goings-on in Migingo Island, where Ugandan authorities have been arresting Kenyan citizens, the latest being the IBC officials. 2 clerks were arrested last week to be released. But let's join live on the telephone Chris Thairo, who's at Parliament. Chris, if you can hear me, what's happening in Parliament?
A very good afternoon to you, Ben, and the dear viewers. What I can confirm is that today being a Wednesday, they had a morning session, and it is a private members' motion, time for private members to bring their bills and motions for debate. And so in the morning, we had a motion by nominated MP Isaac Mwaura, trying to state that all government buildings and that the government should make sure that all government buildings, including also the private ones, have accessibility for the people with disabilities. Although this motion did not end, it will continue next week. But in the afternoon, we have the Division of Revenue Bill, which comes up for first reading. Remember that the Treasury has already cleared this bill together with the Budget Committee, and they set aside 280 billion shillings. This is an increment compared with the last financial year. That is the 2014-2015, because the 47 counties received 259, but this time round it has been increased at 280 billion shillings to be shared equitably among all the 47 county assemblies. And so what I can confirm is that the bill is coming in for the first reading today, and as this is the norm, today we don't expect any debate. Just tabling the bill so that Kenyans and also the MPs can have time to scrutinize the bill before debate starts. There.
Thank you, Chris. KTN's Chris Thairo there, just keeping an eye on what's happening at the National Assembly. Various committees of Parliament doing their work. Now,